Well, welcome back to the Piney Woods homestead, y'all. Lisa and I have been extremely busy. I'm gonna show you a little bit of the stuff we've been doing around here the past few days, but today I'm bringing you a sawmill video, and I'm not milling any lumber. It's been requested that I show kind of the inner workings of this mill, the Easy Boardwalk Jr. How to get a blade on and off, how to tighten it up, the grease points, starting procedures, things like that for a new novice sawyer. So I'm gonna be working on that today, and I'm gonna show you a couple things real quick that we've been doing around here. Y'all, we've been really busy cleaning out the metal building. If you watched any videos in the past, you knew it was just full of antiques and stuff. Well, y'all, now I can walk in here. It's amazing. All this concrete floor space. There's still stuff in here, shop tables, but they're supposed to be in here. But everything on this side is cleaned out now, and almost everything on the other side. So it's going to make for a nice working space, finally, after so many years. Let's get on to the mill. I might show you something else here in a few minutes, but I really want to get on this mill, show you the inner workings of it. All right, let me start off with the engine. This is not an electric start engine. It's a pull rope. And so for those that are brand new to small engines or maybe never have used them much, you've got a toggle switch over here for the on and off. You got to have it in the on position. And then right here is the fuel valve. I keep it closed when it's not in use, and you just turn it all the way as far as it'll go to open it up. That's the best thing to do, is to keep your fuel off. And I run non-ethanol only in my small engines, because it's not going to gum up your carburetor. This little lever right here is the choke. That's going to be choked to on to crank this thing. So after I've got that on switch in the on position, the choke on, I set the throttle, push it about halfway or so, and then just give 3 or 4 pulls, and the Subaru generally will fire right up on choke. And you can let it run on choke for just a minute, but as soon as it cranks, you can pretty much turn that choke off, that little gray lever down there, and this thing will idle right out of the gate. And just let it warm up for about 5 minutes. That's what I do before I ever mill, is let it warm up, just so that the engine is nice and loose before you ever start running it at full throttle. Gas tank's right on top. Like I said, I run non-ethanol only. I've had great success with non-ethanol as far as keeping my engine clean. And I also generally add in some Lucas fuel treatment at every fill up that I use my 5-gallon cans at the gas station with. This right here is just where you add, this thing right here is where you add your blade lube. And I'll show you real quick the blade lube that I use, a homemade version, and it works great. This container holds my blade lube, and all it is a mixture of generally diesel fuel and bar and chain lube, like you'd run in a chainsaw. And I generally mix it about, myself personally, about 3/4 diesel fuel and 3/4 blade lube. And it really just seems to help keep everything lubed, keeps the blade cool as you're cutting. But I have been using some fuel oil that I was able to get out of an old drum that I had a couple of years ago. Got a bunch of it under the shed over here, and it works the same as diesel fuel as far as a lubricant and a solvent, especially going through a lot of this pine lumber that I mill out here. And so I will use that fuel oil in place of diesel fuel, since I have so much of it on hand. There are grease zerks on every one of your bearings on this. That's one thing that sets this mill apart from a lot of other mills. Some mills will have what do you call it, sealed bearings that you can't grease, but this one here has grease zerks on every bearing, and to my knowledge none of these bearings have ever been replaced. That's because we keep it greased. My dad had it before I did, and now I have had it for several years, and just all over. And John Deere cornhead grease is what's recommended. It's a green grease. from the manufacturer. And it does work great, but I have also found that Shell Rotella HD works pretty good in it too. But the manufacturer recommends John Deere cornhead grease. This T-handle right here is what tightens up your band wheels to make your blade to the proper tension. And the way that Easy Boardwalk has designed it, you just crank it to the right to tighten it. There's a nut right here that's set, and there's a piece of steel right here. When that nut gets to the face of that piece of steel, your blade is the proper tension. When it comes time to change out your band, these bands will last, if you're in good clean wood, the bands that I'm running currently that my dad sent over, I can get about 3 hours of milling time in the wood out of these bands, and sometimes a little bit longer depending on how clean the wood is. If you hit a nail or something like that, the blade's pretty much toast. You better put you another band on. But you just loosen this T-handle instead of tightening it, lefty-loosey, to get your tension off of your band, and then you can remove that band. And I'm going to show you how to take one off and put it back on. I'll even see if I can show you how to fold one back up. I'm not the best at it, but I should be able to get it. All right, before I get that band off, I'm going to show you the pitcock over here. This is what you open up, turn to the left, and that's going to let your lube flow whenever you engage the band, the blade, and that's going to keep your blade lubricated and cool. But you want to keep that on when you're milling, and that's all you have to do. The actual lever right here that engages the band is going to cut the flow on of that lubricant. And when you turn it off, it cuts it off. The guards come off easy enough with just a simple rubber cam lock down here. And there's little rubber grommets in the top to help you line back up on the post when you're putting these back on after you've changed your band out. Just come off really easy like that. With your T-handle completely loosened as far as it will go, your band wheels are loose, your blade is loose. I just reach in there with a good pair of heavy leather gloves, give it a pull or two, and it'll pop right off. And then you can take it off easily. And I always keep an eye on the orientation of the teeth. They're always going to be heading towards the right, the tip of the teeth towards the right as I'm looking down at the band. Now to fold the band back up, I have the band placed about shoulder width apart, my hands maybe a little further. And you're going to kind of, let's see if I can remember here. I kind of pinch it like that. Yep. Roll my wrist in, and the band will come in on itself like this. See if I can do that again. So they're together, pinching it with my thumb and forefinger, rolling, and coming in. And from that point, you can put a zip tie around them, piece of wire, and hold it in place. You can hang up so you know when to get it to the sharpener. But that's pretty easy. Just might want to wear safety glasses. All right, putting the band back on is just the reverse procedure of what you did to take it off. I get down here where I can manage it. I'll go over that band wheel on the other side, feed it underneath the guard, and over to the other band wheel. And from there, you can simply rotate this band wheel, and the band is going to walk itself onto the blade. Now, behind the band wheel, you should be able to feel the blade equal, how do I put this? It should be flush. It should be flush with the back of the band wheel. The back of the blade should be flush with the back of the band wheel. And it may take you a few minutes to get that to happen as you're doing it. as you're rotating and pushing. That's why you want heavy leather gloves on. So you get it set on one side to where it should be, and then come to the other side and do the same thing. After you've got it where you think it should be, you can spin the band wheels without it being tightened up and to see if it holds track. If it doesn't, readjust a little more. And then you can tighten down the T-handle and you'll have a tight blade ready to function. And this is what you're looking for once you have it tightened down to the proper tension. The face of that nut is going to be on the face of that piece of flat steel that's laying right here. Now, after the first few cuts that I do on a log, I come back and I check for proper tensioning on the band, because as the band heats up, it does have a tendency to loosen. That's just the nature of steel. But the better the band, the less that's going to happen. And the band that's on it right now is a, let's see, it's a wood miser. What's it called? Laser tip or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the wood miser does pretty good. I think I showed you in another video, the best bands that I have run, my dad gifted me those Ripper 37s. Those things outperformed every single band that I've ever had on this thing. The only other one that was close was called a Lennox, and I can't remember which variety of band it was, but Ripper 37s, Timberwolves, and wood miser bands seem to work pretty good on this Easy Boardwalk Junior. When you're done milling for the day, simply take the tension off of your band by turning to the left on this T-handle. And this is an upgraded T-handle. This mill originally came with, I believe it was a 5/8 T-handle. I can't remember now. It wasn't near the diameter of this one. This is an inch. And I had a welder come over and get this thing installed. And it has been even better than before with this beefed up T-handle. But just take the tension off and you'll see the tension, because the spring that's in front of that nut will no longer have tension on it. The garage door spring assembly up top really helps with the ease of raising and lowering the mill head. There's a little handle in here where my left hand is, and you depress it while holding on firmly to this wheel, and you can lower it easily, you can raise it easily. It takes hardly any strength to do it. Even when my arms were acting up and I was having a lot of pain, I was still able to do this, just a little bit slower. But got a lumber gauge over here, shows you exactly where you're at as you're doing the cuts. If you want a 1 inch, you just drop it an inch, half inch, whatever. But to engage the band, generally I'm at about half throttle, so that I'm not throwing a whole bunch of torque to the band wheels and the, what do you call that thing? My brain is messing up on me here. The belt that actually turns it. This engages the belt. And so at about half throttle, I ease in to it being engaged, and then I run up to full throttle. In the same way, kind of simultaneously, when I'm through the cut, I'm throttling down and disengaging the band at the same time. So guys, that's a pretty easy mill to operate, the Easy Boardwalk Junior. And most of your smaller mills like this are going to be similar as far as how you raise the mill head. The one really nice thing about this mill is that 22-degree offset head. With a good sharp blade, it will literally pull itself through a log. All you have to do is just put a hand on it and help push it on through. But if you are a new sawyer, whatever mill that you have bought, just take your time with it. You're not going to become an expert sawyer overnight. I have hundreds of hours on this mill, and it took me probably 50 hours on the mill to become really confident in its production capabilities. But the longer you do it, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, the more comfortable you will feel. So just take your time. Always check clearances as you're milling, making sure you're not hitting any metal anywhere on your log stops, anything like that, your cam locks. You'll be fine. Keep plenty of lube in the lube tank, keep it in fuel, and keep plenty of Gatorade around for yourself, because guys, you are going to sweat, you're going to work, you're going to feel like you have worked at the end of the day. Y'all, that's going to wrap this one up. Just a quick overview of how to operate that Easy Boardwalk Junior, or really basically any small mill that you may pick up. A lot of firewood to be split. People are already calling wanting it, so a lot of that to get on. Guys, we hope that you have a good day and a great week, and we wanted to let you know also, no damage here on the Piney Woods homestead from Hurricane Helene. It tracked a little bit further west than originally was expected. We had some wind, we had some rain, a few inches, but we had nothing major at all here. Continue to keep those folks in the mountains in your prayers, and if you're able to help in any way, by all means do that. Guys, y'all have a good day and a great week. Lord willing and the creek don't rise too high. We will see you on the next one.